Yeah. So yeah, let's pass it back over to Nelly. We've got probably about another, yeah, what's it, 10 minutes for questions. Let's say 5 minutes. And I'll walk around with the mic so that we get get a good recording. But any hands? We go.
Very simple. Have you ever hooked a bullfish?
Yes. 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 The sport fishing captains in Watamu made sure that next time I get that question, I can say yes. Yes. they've looked after me. Yeah.
Okay. Steve.
Thank you. That was a really, really inspiring talk. There are a number of us in this room that hold various roles in sort of the editorial ecosystem, the publishing space. And in fact, I'm sure all of you have served as referees at some point and authors. You gave a really poignant example of some of the challenges you faced in bringing the voice of recreational fishers to the table. Do you have any advice to to those of us that sit in those chairs and occupy those roles and in terms of how we can make sure that there's space for those voices? Because as you said, it is science, right? There are observations through time. How do we sort of create a space where that is welcome within peer-reviewed publications?
I love that question. And I may not have a fully thought answer, but the point that comes to my mind is sensitizing, creating awareness for editors to realize that knowledge can come in different ways. I think it still remains top down in the sense that this is decided by reviewers or whoever is looking at the paper. And this was, as I said, this paper was one of the examples where it didn't matter how long. I think it took us a year and a half pushing back and forth. It didn't matter how long it was going to take, but we are determined to keep Duarte's voice in the paper. And so for those of us that have the opportunity, I would really appreciate if we can talk to each other on how these knowledge systems can be integrated into our mainstream publication. I think it's a high time so that it's inclusive and not just elite. Yeah, there is an opportunity. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for your talk. When you were talking about how you didn't grow up fishing and then people were questioning your credibility, it reminded me of my own experience when I just did a presentation at an angling club during my master's, and the first question was like, do you fish? And so I know you mentioned that mentorship was something that really kind of helped you overcome some of those, but I'm curious if you have advice for those who are in similar situations but may not have the privilege of great mentorship or other people who can help rally around them. It's a hard question.
Why are you asking me hard a question? Wow. It's so easy to be stuck on my own experiences, but I do realize that great mentorship is not automatic. And so what I would say, and I was just talking to Natana last night at our dinner table, is, and I say this to my other young females, that women that come into the research, is to remember why you're there. Like, what was your purpose? Why did you decide? And if you can go back to that greater purpose, there's a reason why you're in that room. Even when you're asked how many times you've landed a marlin, there's a reason why I was there. So I always just say, remember why you decided to walk that journey, and the purpose sometimes is just only for you and not even for the mentors to understand. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Hi, Nelly. Thank you so much for that talk. It was awesome. I picked up something when you mentioned that some of the information on fisheries and all of the data might still be privileged, um, or restricted, so to speak. I just wanted to ask you, in your experience, do you think that that has improved? And are you optimistic about it improving in the future? Have you seen an improvement where data now is becoming less and less restricted, and people, like the public, can access it better, or you know, is it getting better? Are you optimistic about it?
I'll speak for Kenya and other places that I have experienced. I don't know so much about South Africa. I am optimistic for Kenya, but at the same time, I worry a little bit. And we have Sarah here as one of our students that, and those of you that have fished, you will know this. When you develop this trusting relationship, they tend to stick to one person. So it's only, they only allow one person to go to these sport fishing clubs. And if you're not there, then they will not let anyone you send. So I would say in the last 10 plus years, it's improved. But the more I pull myself away from direct work in the field, we've had to redo again the relationship building, because they're like, well, we don't know you, we only know Nelly. And I'm like, no, I need this person to also access. So accessibility is still an issue, given just how much trust building we have to do. But again, as I said, I'm hopeful that with this knowledge, we can still stand in the gap and help raise the awareness that there's need for inclusiveness when it comes to access to studying these fisheries.
Thanks, Nelly. Just an amazing talk. Along those lines, could you comment on building those relationships with these angling and fishers communities that maybe have a mistrust, or what was there always mistrust, and how you tackled that relationship building with these angling groups and locals?
Yeah, so Nina, when we started working, Nina worked for the Kenya Marine Fisheries Research Institute, which is a government body. And so sometimes when you bring a government body into the picture, people tend to think, are you going to stop us from fishing? That's like the first perception that comes. But one thing that was very interesting was making sure from the onset of our work, there's understanding on why the both of us are teaming together. Because most of the recreational and sport fishing data has been kept privately. But I've always asked the sport fishing captains, when they send me to meetings like the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission, where governments are signatories, I tell them I have no power to do anything unless we collaborate with governments and work together. And so it's in that interest that we've had that opportunity through the Kenya example to try and make sure that there's that trust building. And then with communities, it's years and years of work, as you know, and sometimes it gets better, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm excited to hear from your experience what you have. Yes. And Nina here too can also respond to that, because we really formed a very great team coming from both government and private sector, which is usually not the case. It's private sector doing the research and then government separately. Yeah.
Cool. Unfortunately, our time is up. So yeah, again, thanks so much, Nelly.